Today we're here in my own home, which was built in 1970, and it came with a system called a Cor-Vac, and it had inlets like this all over the house. These are very, very similar to MagiVac, and in fact MagiVac is more common. The whole system is so similar to Cor-Vac, I think they were cousins or something. But anyway, not only did these not look very nice in a newly remodeled house, they also don't fit modern hoses very well, and they don't activate the system in the same way. You couldn't use a hose with a switch on the handle. So these had to go. I found two issues. The first was that the neck of this inlet is larger than the neck of an industry standard wall inlet today. The second was that the screws are in different spots. These screws are a little closer together than these. So I had to figure out these two issues, and there's actually a couple different ways to address them. Inside the wall, we had a short 90-degree elbow, but unlike this one, the ones that had been installed for me were flanged. They had a bit sticking up on the top and a bit sticking down on the bottom. And those flanges are actually what this inlet screwed into. In fact, you can see the remains of that screw hole. And then there was a plastic plate nailed to the stud, and sandwiching that plate with the elbow was a bushing. And this bushing is what makes up the size difference between the elbow and the neck of the inlet. So it would go like this, then that plate which attached to the stud, and then your elbow. So I took an oscillating tool and I cut that plastic plate out of the way, got it out of here, and then I took the same tool and I cut those flanges off the elbow so that inside the wall I was left with basically this part, and this part can stay. You don't have to do a perfect job. And I also got that bushing out of the way. Fortunately, the bushings had not been glued in. If they had, it would have been more of a chore to get them out. Then I took, with my oscillating tool, a standard central vac mounting bracket, and I trimmed the nailing flange off. I also had to shorten at least one of these screw bosses so that I could maneuver this into the wall more easily. You want to leave this whole rectangle here, including the ears at the top and the bottom, because these are what actually sandwich this plate in the drywall with your inlet. So these don't have to be attached to a stud. It really doesn't make much difference if you're doing this in a finished wall. So once I did that, I got that maneuvered inside the wall. It looks like this, and now that will accept a standard inlet valve. I like the vacuum valve shown here because it's large enough to cover the paint line of the old inlets. Usually you don't have to do any touch-up painting, though as you can see my drywall cutout is kind of sloppy, so be a little surgical when you're doing this. The other method you can use, though, is to still use those same flanges that I cut off and just screw into them with the new inlet. And in that case, you would use the center part of this mounting plate only as a bushing. Just cut away everything besides this middle bit, and the middle part will take the place of this bushing and allow you to connect your modern inlet size to the pipe size. And because you have an elbow inside the wall that has those flanges at the top and bottom, you can just screw into those, and you don't have to use this mounting plate or try and finagle it into the wall. If you do that, though, what I would recommend is take an 1/8 inch drill bit. After you've plumbed and leveled the new inlet, drill pilot holes here and here, and then screw in, and you're all set. Of course, make sure you don't have an air leak, make sure it activates properly, and make sure it sits nice and pretty on the wall. Thanks for watching. Happy vacuuming.